Here we go. Let's put on our game faces.
Oh.
Ready, break down.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Push the button, G.
This is the Long in the Boot podcast, the podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. I am your host, G Long, and sitting across the way is, of course, Deb.
Hello, all.
Hi, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I miss you during these 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I've been so busy. I had to get that surgery on my communication finger.
Yes.
And
yes.
It doesn't talk much, but it has one word it says really well.
Yes.
And or I guess that's actually two words.
It's a phrasing, yeah.
It's a phrase.
And it enrages people.
It's the middle phrase or middle finger.
Unless you're using it sarcastically with someone you actually care about, and that doesn't generally enrage them.
Yeah, but I am getting the stitches out today on 4/11, and I don't know what 4/11
I was going to say, is there a significance to that?
No, it's 4/11 at 2:30. That's what I know.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad you're going to do that because I'm tired of hearing it.
And it will be no longer Frankenfinger.
No.
And it's because on the knuckle, every time I bend my finger, the stitches pull. It's. Oh, I know. No, I care.
I know. I care because you can't get the finger wet, and a lot of that has fallen to me.
Right.
And so I've had to pick up slack.
Won't you pity me?
No.
Yeah, no. You won't.
But hey. I will care for you.
Okay. If you want to reach the Long in the Boot podcast, and you know you do, the email is longintheboot@gmail.com to see a phone call. Cool. I got a phone call yesterday, but
it's scammers.
I confused the scammer because I actually answered at Long in the Boot Studios, which you can reach at 337-502-9011.
Bring on your best scam.
Bring on your best scam. I'm not believing you. Go ahead and try.
Are you a skeptic?
I don't need another,
warranty.
Warranty. Thank you. Yeah, but it really stunned him. I've never heard anybody do that before. Stumble. He must be new.
No, there you go.
But he had no accent, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, so Americans are having to do the job now.
Americans doing the jobs that those darn Indians won't do. Because they're too busy starting businesses and making money.
Making money in our country.
And that's right.
This country is not our country anymore. I don't know what I'm saying.
It's somebody's country.
Damn pronouns.
You know what? I don't want it. It's nothing but trouble. A lot of weird things happened over the last 2 weeks too.
Yeah.
Which we're going to kind of sort of get into here in just a second. It's
been a weird process to get there.
Yeah, and normally I don't go into stuff like this because I don't like trying to go deep into politics, but it's not politics. It's something bigger.
It's social. It's cultural.
Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Hopefully you had a good, fine Easter with your family.
Well, I was going to say, let's bring it local real quick because, there were lots of beautiful family photos out there. Lots of gorgeous little Easter
lots of people who I remember as high school people now producing little tiny people.
Yes.
And the families are beautiful, which will also come up very quickly in this podcast, strangely enough.
Oh, family, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's all about the family, as Dom says.
No, Dom says it's all about family.
That's it. Because there is another Fast and Furious coming. We saw the trailer at the theater when we went to see
I'll admit it. I didn't
Easter Day choice.
I didn't become a fan of Fast and Furious movies until they became superheroes and could defy all the laws of physics.
It really took a podcast telling us we needed to watch them all.
Right.
Yeah.
And what order they actually should be watched, which is not the order they came out by any means.
So that helped us, and now we are fans, I think.
Yeah, I would say I'm a fan, maybe not for the right reasons.
Well, maybe not for the intended reasons, but once they realized they jumped the shark, maybe they just embraced that.
Well, I think they did. I think that's absolutely the case.
Because there's some ludicrous shit going on.
Well, you can fly.
Cars.
You can fly off of a car.
Yeah. Fly in a car, fly off of a car. Yeah, it's like Transformers, car helicopter. I don't know.
You can be broke and penniless and buy a giant safe that is a replica of the safe you need to break into somehow, and also purchase lots and lots of really fast, expensive cars.
But we've suspended our belief, and we say,
totally.
All right, I'm all in.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Vin Diesel.
Yeah, Vin Diesel and The Rock, they would have trouble in a fight because they're so equal.
Equal, yes, unequal. Well, I know which one is my choice.
All right.
Anyhow, so we went to the theater for Easter Sunday. That was our
Dungeons and Dragons.
And saw Dungeons and Dragons. And we saw 5 minutes of Dungeons and Dragons 3 times repeated in a row.
Right. The movie stopped, and I watched the same 7 men in armor die 3 times. Which, it
was odd.
Yeah.
But I was at that point, like, okay, this starts up again at the same spot. I'm out 3 times. That's it.
Yeah. But and luckily,
they gave continued. It continued. They reloaded, and they gave us a little rain check. So we get another free movie.
Oh, Nick Cage. I'm looking at you, buddy. I can't wait.
So a little Easter bonus there for the empty nesters.
So enough about all that. So
enough about us and
well, I'm going to go into this simply because I'm as a product of a broken home. I'll say it that way.
Both of us, yeah.
Both of us. Family has always been important to me, and certainly it is now more than ever because it's so small. It's such a small family that I'm always, thinking about my little family and
our peoples.
And I constantly see this constant attack on families, and I've been wondering why this is. And I see it manifest itself in all kinds of different ways. These school board meetings where somebody's just simply speaking out for their child, and they get attacked. And it can be the littlest things.
And it seems to be across the country.
And it's happening more and more. Yeah. And
library books are being attacked, curriculums being attacked, teachers on both sides either.
Yeah, and it's weird because the confluence of attacks seem to be manifesting across the spectrum. It's not just on the left. You also have people on the right attacking family in a different way, which is taking away the right of families to make decisions about themselves.
Or their own family.
Right. And also deciding what a family is or isn't. And
well, there are no boundaries for what a family is anymore, I would say, because they've certainly been expanded from traditional family that you and I should have grown up in, but we didn't. So therefore the definition began changing.
But what's I'm starting to do is put together a lot of things that I've read in history, and I'm noticing a confluence of different things. And one of the things is a form of communism / fascism that has been developing in this country with the help of people in government. There's no question about the fact that it's about control.
Wouldn't you say the government system is working the way it should in each area? Those people vote for what the agenda they want.
If money was no factor, maybe. But since money dictates elections and dictates what information people see, we also have to remember that it's not just money that dictates what you see in media about elections. It's also agenda.
So you wouldn't say then that the representatives of each, grassroots, right, small, local, those people representing.
At the very local level.
Yeah.
That's different. I'm not talking there.
Okay, but then those people generally move up.
If they play the game.
Sure. We know that is a game. Societies have always needed games.
I don't care if you like Trump or not. He did point out that there is this undercurrent of unelected government officials that are truly running our country.
Oh, are you talking about the deep state?
Well,
because that's a conspiracy that's not been proven. We have many conspiracies that are real.
All conspiracies are unproven until they are proven.
Okay.
But it came. I ran into this other side of this thing about family, which I'll get to in a minute. I'll talk about the communist side first.
Okay, how are you going to bring this? Okay, so isms. Isms are already a problem.
Well, I'm going to show you how communism has been subverted by another agenda and kind of they're absorbing each other, and it's manifesting into something which is, to me, going to be a futuristic version of feudalism where you have the elites at the top and everybody else working, but we need a lot fewer people.
Sure.
That's going to be part of it as well.
So then are you saying no middle class and we're going to go back to 2 classes as pre-plague?
Oh, well, if some of these people get their way, there'll be no families in the future. There'll be no class in the future because we will be beyond human.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about
transhumanism.
So no longer humanism. So schools of thought like Enlightenment and all this, and humanism and the Renaissance and all these schools of thought that mankind has gone through.
Right, but we're going
resulted in.
There can be no doubt that we're going through some kind of weird change in this country.
Yes.
That a lot of countries are not dealing with, especially when it comes to trans rights.
Okay.
And there is an agenda behind what we're seeing, which I can get to in a minute. But let's first start with communism. We'll go there first. Okay,
because we've always been scared of communism.
Of course. And
socialism.
Communism had certain agendas. And Marx and Engels, the guys who, wrote the manifesto.
The thought, yes.
Called the Communist Manifesto. I would say it was pretty.
So isms and manifestos.
And I have to say first, where did Marx and Engels believe that they were of a class in the 1800s that believed that originally man existed in a perfect classless primitive communism where there was no private property and there were no families and there were no marriages and every man had sex with every woman in what Engels called a promiscuous horde. He says it was only with the invention of marriage that private property began and people started oppressing each other by class. And he said that under communism, we would return to our true human nature. This is the same kind of ideas that Rousseau had about man in his natural state, what he would always talk about.
Okay.
But what we now know, of course, with this thing called history that he didn't have access to, that this idea that man lived in this weird communistic promiscuous horde, it's bullshit.
No, people like to put up fences.
I'd like to give it a better word.
We like boundaries and we like to have our stuff.
And it's bullshit. Anthropology has shown us that as far back as we can go, even into Neanderthal times, there's a really good chance that people were pair bonding, and that is in fact what made us human.
Well, go to any communist country. Do they still get married and have relationships and families?
They do.
They do.
But under Stalin, that was one of the things he tried desperately to do, was to break up the families of the top people.
And look how that worked out for him.
Because he thought he was trying to create a perfect.
Yeah, he thought
Stalin may have been a psychotic bastard, but he was an absolute believer in communism and Marxism,
and in the ways steps to get there. Yeah, yes. Steps to make
and
that
one
happen.
Of the first steps. Well, I'll let Roger Simon. By the way, Roger Simon is a reporter who's been around for a long time.
He's a journalist.
He's won many awards. He is well respected,
investigative,
and he has left major media. Like he used to work for Chicago Tribune. He is now the editor of the Epoch Times, which is it's Chinese owned, but it's not communist Chinese owned. It's owned by Chinese people who have left China to get away from communism.
They fled, yes,
and they have some other news organizations that they're aligned with, like NTD. And a lot of people go, well, they're right wing. Yeah, but they're all generally neutral, which I find funny how that's part of this whole communist thing is you have to place people by their identity. And the best thing you can do is, for instance, somebody who's neutral, if you're on the left, which a communist is, instead of saying that person's neutral, it's much better to say they're on the right. That way, there's nobody has to listen to them.
Well, because it's easier to have two opposing as opposed to the middle ground.
The middle.
Yeah, which most people are.
Yeah.
The only people we're hearing from are the extreme.
Philosophically, middle is generally where most people will find themselves if you're comparing political
moderate
and ethical.
Yeah, and they would say you're apathetic and you don't care.
So, well, we'll just
let him tell us.
Yes, and this starts my journey down this rabbit hole.
Roger Simon, welcome to our show. Thanks so much for coming on. Now, concern is growing among critics of Trump's indictment that America could be turning into a banana state. But in a recent Epoch Times article, you say that the indictment is a move towards something much bigger than a banana state. Could you elaborate on that?
To call the United States a banana state is a little bit harder. Una Repubblica Bananera in the original. It is not, because it's too big and powerful for that. What it is an incipient communist state of a slightly different form than we're used to, but in very weird and ironic ways similar to the People's Republic of China.
And you say that the U.S. has been evolving towards this end for some time, pointing to censorship from the media and government as examples. What have you seen recently?
One of them is where I'm here in Nashville. And as your viewers know, we've had a real disastrous, awful murder here in Nashville of 6 people at a church, 3 of whom were 9-year-old children. The murder was perpetrated by a woman in her late 20s who decided she was transgendered and was a male and showed up and committed these murders in what one might call terrorist drag. I mean, she looked sort of like a classical terrorist from the Middle East with a machine gun. I mean, that's what she looked like. And this was reported on as transgendered. And of course, the manifesto that she wrote has been suppressed by the government and the FBI. But interestingly enough, the word transgender or transgendered was suppressed by CBS, a major network of our country, for reasons they don't want to make clear, but I think are quite obvious. And that is that the dissolution of the family has been a major intent of communism since the early days of the Bolshevik Revolution.
Okay, so that's Simon talking about this thing that Bolsheviks knew that you must get rid of the family. You might say, well, why do they need to get rid of the family? They still have families. Communists still have families. Well, they're not practicing true communism. They haven't made it yet. You see, it's always
they haven't achieved enlightenment.
But there's an insidious reason behind that.
It goes in and out because they realize it's very difficult to do. But if you dissolve the family, then what does the individual have left but the state? So the state becomes your family, and then you're under the control of the state, and you're de facto in a communism.
What do you see as the way forward for breaking out of this, what you've called brainwashing?
Not easy, but one way is the old-fashioned way, which is learn about it. Knowledge helps. Realize what's happening to you. I mean, I congratulate NTD for doing that. Epoch Times does it. Others do it. But the other way is to elect people who are awake to that. You know, Donald Trump, for all his pluses and minuses and excessive behavior, some would say, he is certainly very aware of this and is working against it, as another political candidate, less known, Vivek Ramaswamy, very aware of it. Others, too, are aware of it. So you have to elect people who are aware of it. You have to make known the feelings, and you have to talk to your friends and relatives about it. This is maybe the hardest part. It's easy to vote in secret ballot, but it's hard to talk to people that you've known a long time who can disappear on you, who can alienate you, who can ruin your life.
And there you go. So, like you said, the hardest thing to do, you can educate yourself, but if you try to educate your friends and family, they get angry.
They've already surveyed it.
They've staked a position.
Well, they know that people will say that they voted this way, but in the voting booth, they didn't.
Right.
And they won't tell the truth. They are scared to speak out.
And so what Simon is saying,
you sound like a crazy person.
You do. But think about just with the pandemic. Look how many friendships.
Oh, yeah.
Look, the Trump election.
Oh, yeah.
Look how many friendships, families were shattered for a man who really just doesn't deserve to have that much power over individual lives. Yes, lots of bad behavior. Yes, but he did understand that there is
because he's been part of the elite system for so long.
And what he found out was when you go and try to drain the swamp fights back.
Yeah.
And
because they want to continue their way of life.
Right. And he's also talking about education. Educate yourself. You got to educate yourself. Well, what happens when the systems of education are taken over by the very people who have this plan in their agenda?
Yes.
How do you educate yourself?
Because they're manipulating education.
Well, one way you could do it is maybe ban internet sites that don't align with your thinking.
What?
Well, like
confirmation bias?
TikTok. Maybe get rid of TikTok. Maybe shut down anybody who doesn't toe the line. I'm sure no social media sites would do that.
But America's free. When I get on the internet, I can see anything I want to see.
No, you can't.
Can't I?
No.
I think I can.
Yeah, you're wrong. Go and without a VPN without a VPN, go and try to watch Netflix UK. You're in the wrong country, baby. You can't watch that.
I know. No.
And by the way, the government currently, for all the distractions and sideshows that are happening, there is a bill in Congress right now that Biden has already said he'll sign if it gets passed, will ban VPNs. Now, why would that be? Because with a VPN, you can get news from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and find out what's actually going on.
And nobody will know you're doing it.
Yeah. No, and anonymity has to go away completely.
And that government needs that to go away.
Well, that's been part of the whole
for the power structure.
And conspiracy theories have always abounded about them trying to get us out of a cashless society. I know there are
the digital dollar's coming.
Yeah, a lot of people are terrified of
the digital dollar is coming.
Because that's just another sign.
Mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Mark of the beast.
Well,
you know what? Set the Bible aside. Let's deal with what
why conspiracy now? Why
well, here's the problem.
Now?
When we talk about the government, everybody in their mind immediately thinks of the Capitol building, Lincoln Memorial, the White House.
No, I think of all the industry that runs everything because they have so much money.
We have to think about the government, though, as a swath of people across the entire nation whose entire livelihoods are dependent upon making the other people in the nation,
the ones who are not government officials,
who are not part of the clique.
Yes.
The elite.
Because they don't make enough money.
Well, it's not even money. They don't have power.
Yes, they have no hand.
Think of it as a giant pyramid structure, which maybe that pyramid on the dollar is probably an accurate.
There are think tanks out there trying to fight back the other way, too.
There are so many
Fight
tanks.
Inequality Alliance, the Institute for Policy Studies, Patriotic Millionaires.
But here's the problem. Who funds them?
I don't know. I haven't researched.
Yeah, that's always the problem.
They said that an annual wealth tax of 5% on the world's multimillionaires and billionaires would raise $1.7 trillion a year. That would bring 2 billion people out of policy, fund humanitarian appeals, deliver a 10-year plan to end hunger, just all of these things. However, despite the world's poor asking for the world's rich to be taxed at a higher rate, it never happens.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I don't know. It seems weird.
It's almost like during the French Revolution when they decided to have that meeting before the revolution, and there were 3 different groups. There was the clergy, there were the rich and noble, and then there was everybody else. Yeah. Each group got 1 vote.
What?
And somehow or another, the third group always seemed to find itself unable to get anything done.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Taxes, for instance. Only the third group paid taxes. The other 2 did not.
Yes.
And they seemed to always vote against measures that would make them pay taxes.
Well, that was my thing I was reading in Elon Musk. His tax rate is less than 4%.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I pay like
10%.
10% on my little
on
income.
Just federal income.
Just my income on federal income. Exactly.
Yes.
That's not all the other taxes if you want to throw that shit in. Musk, he can't afford more than under 4%. It was like 3 point something.
Yeah.
According to, taxing the super rich is a precondition to reducing all inequality and resurrecting democracy.
Sure.
Ideally.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, yeah. It's not going to happen. And why? Because of technology or because of this concerted effort or both?
You're asking people.
You use the word, and I can't even say the word, a confluence.
Confluence.
Yes. I said it, confluence.
Confluence.
Con. Oh, they are conning.
Drag chicken.
All right, get it together, sir. You have an agenda.
I do, and it's long, and I've got some clips, and the clips are long. I apologize for long clips.
Well, but they're saying it,
but they're able
because they're people who they know this,
and they've said it more than once. And then I also have this other side of this disillusion of the family thing.
Okay, so it's not just the family.
It's not just the communists.
Oh. Damn.
I think a lot of these people don't even realize they're practicing a form of communism. They just have another agenda that aligns itself very nicely.
Yeah, they would never label it as that because we're terrified of labels now, and yet we use them.
Well, communism would work very well in a technological state. So
but I thought now we're afraid of socialism. Don't give health care to everybody.
But we're not. We do it all the time.
Well, but we can't do it with health care?
No.
Why can't everybody have health care in an industrial?
It will happen if these people that I'm about to talk about get their way.
Well, then that's
because
a
the medical
point.
industry, but right now, currently, the medical industry, and this is the weird part, Eisenhower warned us of the military-industrial complex.
Yes, now we've gone to
the medical / pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, well, yeah, because bigger. Pharmaceuticals rely on the healthcare industry.
Right, and they're tied in heavily with governments, just like the military.
Well, we saw that. COVID taught us that. We didn't realize it prior to COVID. We realize it now. And
we didn't also realize how much control the pharmaceutical industrial complex has over media.
Yes.
And there's a reason for it. And it's weird. There are people in this country, and this isn't happening everywhere like it's happening here, but it is happening everywhere. Just it's starting out smaller.
Yeah.
And I have to go on to define a term.
Okay.
That will become more familiar. Readers of science fiction know the term. It's transhumanism.
Yes.
But transhumanism isn't science fiction anymore. Just like all good science fiction, it has come to pass.
Yes,
and it is happening
often.
And it's a not only a technological movement, it is now considered a philosophical, intellectual, and technological movement,
combined,
which advocate the enhancement of the human condition by developing and making available technologies that can enhance longevity and cognition. That's the plain answer.
Okay.
But in order to get there, you've got to go, well, further. And that may be the biggest problem of all. The goal for these people, long run goal, is to become more than human.
Yes. The $6 million man.
But way different.
Way more than that, because we have better technology. And in some cases, it's thinking.
To actually become one with machines.
It's just not making you bionic. It's going above bionics.
Right. And if you think I'm making just wild things up, there's already, in 2006, the Mormon Church gave their approval to the Mormon Transhumanist Association about the intersection of technology and religion.
So Mormons aren't afraid of technology.
They're not afraid of this.
Of integrating with technology.
And there's all sorts of cases of the American Academy of Religion holds a transhumanist and religion consultation during its annual meeting where they try to reconcile technological beliefs, philosophical beliefs, and religious beliefs.
Okay.
So they are trying to push these things together.
So they're ready
right?
for AI, and they're preparing for a melding of spirituality and technology into each individual.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but you've got to be an individual worth keeping, because if you're not a part of a certain group, why keep you?
Well,
why bother? Yeah. Why, unless you need to do a job, I guess.
Well, my problem is I'm a student of history, and I see eugenics coming into this. I'm starting to see eugenics being part of this.
Reviving. And
in some cases, it's an economic eugenics. Well, look, you're not rich, so obviously your opinion doesn't count as
But they don't want to abort any child.
Oh, yes, they do.
No, not from what the news tells us. There's no woman is giving up any baby. Every life is sacred. If you are a
woman who decides she's a man and you give up your organs, you have effectively given up your right to have a baby.
Okay, well, you can get a baby in an incubator.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you're going to get a baby.
They'll be decanted. Yeah, people won't have to have babies. In fact, for these people, that would be perfect.
Because then they can control all manner of the baby's existence.
Correct.
And live, yeah, okay.
Okay, so
all right. I read The Giver. I know what's going to happen.
So that's where we're going, and these things are working together, and I find it just really interesting.
Do they know they're working together?
I'm not sure. Some people are starting to see it. And I'm going to refer to Jennifer Bilek. She is an artist, author, and journalist, an investigator.
Okay.
And she began looking into this. Now, here's the thing. She is a feminist, lesbian woman, from what I can understand reading her stuff. She never really says that's not important.
It shouldn't be.
And it isn't important. It's absolutely not. And in fact, if you want to be trans, that's not important either. But if you're letting these corporate demigods make you
manipulate
think and manipulate your kids into wanting a sex change at 9. We won't let kids vote before they're 18, but we're going to let them choose to change their gender and use chemicals. And well,
could a 10-year-old go in and ask for breast implants?
In some places now, if they say they want, right now they would have to prove that they want to be a woman, a boy, let's say, wants breasts.
Okay, well, wait, no, you're a girl. You're a female. Mm-hmm. And at the age of 12, I've decided that I want to be sexier than I am.
I don't think you would find somebody willing to do it.
See, well, then why can I? Which
gives rise to questions.
Yeah.
As we get through these things, we'll do the first one. This one's a little long, but we'll start with
making my head hurt.
I know. I'm sorry, but
it's technology. It's the advancement of technology to improve, our lives. But we never get a say in any of that. We don't get to say, we don't get to decide, we don't get all the information. This is all elites deciding this for us, right? And it's, it rides the bullet train of the market. Everybody is profiteering off of this now, even if they have no idea what it's about. Transgender modeling agencies, gender fluid makeup, photographers taking pictures of transgender children. It's everywhere. And this same message is being driven into their grade schools. By second grade, they're learning about gender identity, taking hormones. And this is all brought in under anti-bullying programs. These programs were passed by Obama and funded by the Pritzker family, one of the largest, one of the most wealthy families in America. There's many of them. Jennifer Pritzker was an Army colonel. He purports to be a female and runs around with, synthetic sex characteristics of a female. And he drives this ideology into the psychiatric departments of major universities, into other medical institutions, gender hospitals, the military, et cetera, et cetera. And his company, Tawani Foundation, is partnered with Squadron Capital, which is a medical device company. So he's following the same trajectory of Arcus Foundation, right? Stryker Medical is a medical supply corporation, right? And they're going to be profiting off of these surgeries, not just, so-called gender surgeries, but human augmentation. When we open the door to these kind of radical changes to our biology, the way that we're planted in the ecosphere, once we let that go, that tether, anything is up for grabs, They can manipulate your DNA. They can manipulate you any way you want. And that's why these rights are, from what I can tell, these gender rights are being passed. It's not about people that are allowing a medical attack on their sex. It's for future augmented human beings. I follow the money, and money trails do not lie. They tell you the truth.
Okay, we'll come back to her in a second. She mentioned the Pritzker family.
Yes.
All right. The Pritzker family is one of the richest families in America. As she said, they are the co-founders of the Hyatt hotel chain.
Oh, okay.
And there is a pile of them. They're everywhere, including the governor of Illinois. The governor of Illinois and his brother, James, who is now Jennifer.
Okay.
They are billionaires, and they are pushing what is referred to as synthetic sex identities. So we're going to stop using the word trans. Synthetic
Well, sure,
sex
it's getting
identities.
a bad rap. And, back to the shooting and the fact that they're really not pushing any of that. I haven't seen any of the manifesto. It's amazing.
You can't find it.
Yeah. Why? Because that was a story that we are all waiting for.
And I'm going to use this example.
Because it makes it in a bad light.
If it had been a white person purposely going into, say, a black church or a black grocery store
we would have,
and shooting up the place, we got their manifestos
we would
or
see
anything
all
they
that
wrote
hate.
down. We'd see it, all that hate.
Mm-hmm.
Here, we don't see it.
You're not really seeing it at all. They're not really mentioning that was a man.
No.
And
then we had a news shooting this week in Louisville about an angry employee there. Oh, thank goodness. A regular mass shooting.
A regular shooting, yeah.
But anyway, the Pritzker family helped put Barack Obama in the White House. I'm not saying anything about Barack Obama here. I'm just saying
their money supported him.
Include amongst their number former U.S. Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, philanthropist Jennifer Pritzker, who is
former we got the stats.
Yeah. And they have a lot of money, but what they're doing is they're pushing their money into this
into the future they want.
Into the future they want, and the way they're doing it is through donations to schools, especially
across the country.
Correct. It says with the introduction of the SSI, I'm going to use SSI. It's just easier to say than synthetic sex identity. Right? I mean, SSIs.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
I'm just trying to think of what are we going to end up calling it?
I don't know, but they believe, Jennifer especially believes, that humans are not sexually dimorphic. In other words, there's no difference.
Okay.
Between the sexes, despite the fact
biological
that,
differences,
doesn't matter. They don't see it. They don't care.
Okay, we're still humans. Hey, human.
And so they don't see that. They also don't accept the idea of gay and lesbian as a singular thing, which is really weird. Okay, but they're using that avenue to direct what they want. 2018, Ronald Reagan Medical Center at the University of California, where Pritzkers are major donors. Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology advertised several options for young females who think they can be men and have their reproductive organs removed. This procedure is called gender-affirming care.
Gender-affirming. Ooh, think of the terminology there.
The Pritzkers became the first American family to have a medical school bear its name in recognition of a private donation when it gave $12 million to the University of Chicago School of Medicine in 1968. An additional gift of $30 million to the University of Chicago's Biological Sciences Division and School of Medicine.
More than double what they gave.
So that was their first in 1968, or in 2002, excuse me, when they gave that second $30 million. They got their foot in the door of the medical field.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because that's substantial.
Jennifer then founded the Tawani Foundation. Now, this is a place that just takes in money. It's a 501(c)(3). It's not for profit. They just take in donations. Money,
what
lots
do they
lots
do?
of money.
Who donates?
Well, they give
why?
money. They've given funding to, interestingly enough, Howard Brown Health, Rush Memorial Medical Center, University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences Foundation, University of Minnesota's Institute for Sexual and Gender Health, and lots of other hospitals in either pediatrics or gender.
Always in those areas.
Right. All of which provide, all of those things I just named have a division of gender care.
Okay.
In the case of the latter, clients include gender creative children as well as transgender and gender nonconforming adolescents.
I'm not smart enough to understand all that.
They're working with kids.
Well, no, I understand that, but how ambiguous. I can't.
Well, but that's how they do it, though, because they're getting into these schools that are educating future psychiatrists, future doctors,
the future leaders.
I don't care about Jennifer's transgender, whatever, but the Tawani Foundation, one of the groups that pushed Biden to get the military to start giving gender non-bullying
reassignment
shit.
Yeah.
Okay. The Tawani Foundation funds institutions that support the concept of a spectrum of human sexes.
Okay, so because we've already said we're all on the spectrum, so now it's our sexuality that is also being parsed, I guess.
And so they've created a bunch of legal foundations.
Well, sure.
Human Rights Campaign, William Institute
because now you have to defend all of those strange things that you're putting forth into society because they're getting us to accept all of this.
Correct. And they're doing it
because there's so much money.
And they're acquiring, they're putting money into law schools now. That's the new move.
Because you'll have
So we
to
got the medical, the legal,
the educational.
And don't forget elections.
Schools.
We have a governor.
Well, sure. Well, yeah, you got to have the politicians.
Well, schools, definitely.
Pharmaceuticals behind it all because they're going to make, just gobs of money.
Oh, yeah. And they're also going into the technology. Companies that make instruments and implants and injection molding machines for use in surgery. Lots of money going into that. They are also helping the government decide how to create NGOs that will also, and those are non-governmental entities that get money but are not elected. non-governmental organizations like the Arcus Foundation.
She mentioned that.
Yes. And let her talk some more.
And so I started following the money, and I looked at all these different NGOs, these non-governmental organizations that were really huge. They were huge, like Arcus Foundation and Gill Foundation. They're mammoth. They've each given like $500 million to spread this ideology through the cultures. You know, not just our culture, but Western cultures, because they fund other organizations that do the same thing. And they create this whole scaffolding, this political scaffolding to drive it, so that you have media people, you have people that are being trained in politics to get them into political institutions, like the Victory Institute, for instance. That's funded very heavily by Arcus Foundation. And like, for instance, Rachel Levine was part of that organization. They call people from different schools in different areas that are going to work for them, and then they train them to be in these positions to drive policy through the culture.
There you go. So she's explained very well that that's the deal. And one example is the University of Minnesota's National Center for Gender Spectrum Health. Yeah, they have one of those. Spectrum Health. Quote, the gender spectrum is inclusive of a wide array of gender identities beyond binary definitions, inclusive of cisgender and transgender identities, genderqueer and non-binary identities as a normal part of natural expression of gender. Gender spectrum health is the healthy, affirmed, positive development of a gender identity and expression that is congruent with the individual's sense of self.
Wow, we're all wrapped up in ourselves.
Aren't we, though?
Yeah, the ego is big here.
By the way, they've also given boatloads and truckloads of money to universities in Canada, and including one that is the Bonham Center for Sexual Diversity Studies, investigating and investing in the deconstruction of human sex.
Okay, so we deconstruct the family, we deconstruct our sexuality, and the ultimate ends is that the richest elites live forever in some sort of technological body that they've created.
Now you're getting there. And
so then they have media people as well, like GLAAD is the media arm. So GLAAD and Arcus Foundation are closely working together. And GLAAD goes about spreading information about how people are supposed to talk about this, because it's a human right and you don't want to offend anybody. Right? So the message comes from on high, and what I mean by on high is not Arcus Foundation, I mean Stryker Medical, $17.1 billion corporation and growing by the day in 75 different countries. The medical industrial complex is bigger than the military industrial complex.
There you go. So
yeah, I believe that.
It's absolutely true.
And Stryker is too close to Stark Industries, I don't like it.
Well, I don't like it because Stryker, I think, wasn't Stryker the name of the guy that was trying to kill Bourne or Wolverine?
In the military.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Now, this transhumanist philosophy, by the way, is practiced by a lot of people. That's what this is. What she's talking about with the Pritzkers is this move, but they're using gender as their platform
firing.
Yes. They don't care.
Because nobody wants to offend anybody anymore.
Well, but they don't care about the sex stuff. They don't care about gender. What they want is to be able to fund all of this stuff that's coming. But you've got to get one thing broken first. Same with communism. How do you get communism in? You break up the family. Once you break up the family, the state becomes dominant. These people, they realize that the way to get in is through education, thing that should cure you.
Well, Hitler showed us that as well.
Right. And then also to make it so that using communist techniques, anyone who disagrees with you is a mortal enemy. And you have to shut them down. Don't let them speak. They're bullying you.
Yes, and we know
if they have an opinion different than yours.
Yes.
And again,
never mind who's right.
Again, I don't care. If you want to be trans. Don't care.
So, but they've made it so that you can't talk about the issue without being attacking trans people.
Right. I'm not attacking trans people. I'm attacking the people that are behind
the people
this
that
media
are,
push.
But they're manipulating the trans people.
And I'll give you one example.
Because, what's the percentage of people who might be trans?
It's less than 1%.
So they should not be garnering this kind of public media.
And I'll go even further. In this discussion today about trans rights and things, Who are the people that they're focusing on the most? Where does it come up more than anywhere else? Athletics. And what is it?
Yes.
It's boys becoming girls. Turns out that 80% of all gender affirming care happens to women. It's women who become men.
So we don't know.
20% are men becoming women.
And they're getting in our athletics.
But who are we hearing about?
Well, that's who we're hearing about because it's an unfair, unjust.
It's an unfair advantage.
Yes.
But if they can break
the bodies are different.
But if they can break that one, then they've done it. They've done what they need to do to bring on this new age of transhumanism. Because once you eliminate the idea of a sex, you eliminate.
But how do we have gender reveal parties then? What's about the pinks and the blues?
Let me let Jennifer wrap it up here.
All right.
And, you can see this trajectory in the, along
this is a
late
long.
1990s, early 2000s. There was a big shift in the culture from, data, from the digital age and the information age, and it sort of moved into artificial intelligence, transhumanism, robots, nanotechnology, biotechnology, etc. So this is kind of where we're going now. This is like the future trajectory of this. But, Silicon Valley has been pushing a transhumanist agenda for, since the early 2000s, late 1990s. So then Bainbridge meets up with another interesting character, Martine Rothblatt, who is also a transhumanist. And Rothblatt is, he's a transsexual. He's a man that's appropriated simulacrums of women's biology for himself, and he calls himself, transgender or a transsexual. He's very well renowned and very well, appreciated for his accomplishments. So he's been in the tech sector. He's been in the medical sector. He's been in all over Hollywood. He's been on Oprah and he's been on a million different shows, with his robot wife, which he created. Rothblatt wrote a book, and it's really a blueprint of what's going on in the culture now. This is his ideology, working off of the work of Bainbridge. Whereas we're going to disintegrate the sexes, the boundary between the sexes. There'll be no youth and age. There'll be no, male and female. There'll be no, transhumanism is like boundarylessness. You're out there in cyberspace. Ultimately, while you're getting there, it's an upgrade in humanity, melding yourself with machines, transferring human reproduction to the tech sector. In, I think it was late 1980, he got together with a whole bunch of other transvestite lawyers and transsexuals, and they created a document, which was the very first gender bill, which brings disembodiment into the law. The sexual objectification of female biology, into parts, and making a human right out of that.
So
right?
What do you mean disembodiment?
Well, where he's going is full-on disembodiment, where everybody lives in cyberspace. We live in a virtual reality. We don't live in our bodies anymore. We're going to be uploaded into cyberspace. Well, in order to sell that to the public, transhumanism and disembodiment as a life, you're going to have to groom them and get them there. And the way to do that is to create this ideology that says that you can choose your sex. That's disembodiment.
Yeah, once you can choose your sex, you can choose to be anything. There are groups now that practice interspecies. They don't believe they're a human being. They think, and this is real, they think they're like an eagle. No, they don't look like an eagle. They don't talk like an eagle. They don't lay eggs. But they will tell you that they are an eagle.
They identify.
They identify as an eagle. And you just have to accept that.
Are they better people?
No, they're eagles.
But are they better than us?
Of course not. But
because if we're going to change and alter all of society and all of humanity, I want better. Can we do better?
Oh, don't you see? You'll be immortal.
I don't want to be immortal and live in the shit.
Kurzweil, that guy that helped found Google, is a transhumanist. And ever since, and this, I think this is really funny, he didn't really care about transhumanism or health or any of that stuff until at 35, he was discovered to have diabetes.
Oh, wait, is this the guy that got the antenna?
No, that's a different guy.
Oh, okay.
Kurzweil began going into the singularity. He wants this melding of machine and
matrix,
man so that he can upload his
consciousness,
which I guess he assumes it's more important than anybody else's consciousness, right?
Well, see, that's the other issue I have with all of this.
He's all about the singularity now. That's his big push. And Google's right there with him. That's what this AI is about. The AI is
we're being distracted, I think, a little bit.
Well, the AI is ostensibly the future of AI in their mind is that it will be incorporated within us, just like nanotechnology.
It's a part of us, like sending bots in to fix things inside of us.
And by the way, the Pritzkers are heavily invested in nanotechnology as well.
Yeah.
Because what we'll have is they'll inject us
with little
tiny robots that will cure us of whatever diseases we are suffering from. I watched
it on the nightly news the other night.
And that's the future. But of course, that begs a whole lot of other questions about, well, who's doing it? What's their agenda?
Who gets the cancer treatment? Who gets nanobots and who doesn't?
Have we all been injected
nanobots?
with them already?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. We discovered in America that we're sheep when it comes to doing what the government tells us, right?
Oh, yeah. We've known that for a long time because we get something out of it. But now
people I know that distrusted the government more than anybody
are more
have gotten their vaccines.
Yes.
Everybody got their vaccines because it was going to. And remember, the same medical science industry told us, once you have the vaccine, you won't be able to pass it, you won't get sick, you won't be blah, blah, blah. All lies. Every single one of those things was a lie.
I only got it because I was absolutely sure that my job was going to force me to get it.
I thought so, too.
And I did it once, and then that was it.
But Kurzweil says, the human body is a system of thousands of programs, and that understanding all of their functions will hold the key to truly building a sentient AI. Now, once you can build a sentient AI, then there's no reason why you couldn't upload a human being into that.
Okay, so if this is if this is part of the ultimate goal here, then what about room for war? Because I mean,
war has a very important purpose for these people.
Is mankind still going to go to war? Are we still going to have those kinds of atrocities? Because I would think that we would be smarter than that.
Well, how did we recover from war in the past? Lots of bonking, right? As soon as the war was over, everybody came home, started bonking, made lots more babies for the next war.
The world for the next generation.
Nobody's bonking.
Well, they're not coming back. Well,
now, when we have a big war, that's just part of the population that's been reduced.
But it's not going to be like that again.
Right. But what I'm saying is they won't be replaced.
No, because they're not coming home.
They won't need to be replaced. We have too many people now. Bill Gates has said that. All of these elites who are pushing the exact same agenda,
population control,
have all said that we got to reduce the population.
Meanwhile, India is just about to surpass all populations on the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
But they'll have the same elites though. And then they'll have some kind of, look, why didn't COVID wipe out India? My God, talk about a country that didn't have any kind of safety net for poor people, because they've got more poor people than just about any country, which might actually bring down India before it's all said and done.
I don't know, but they're a colorful people.
They really are.
Damn, I enjoy their movies.
Man, the color. Oh.
Beautiful fabrics.
So the final guy I want to talk about, and it's a little long, but I'm not talking long about this guy. It's just Neil Harbison. You've probably seen him.
Well, you could save him for another episode.
Well, okay, I will.
You can preview.
You need to go. Well, first of all, go up, look the Pritzkers up, look up Jennifer Bilek, look up Robert Simon. All of these, by the way, I want to thank the No Agenda podcast for turning me on to these things, because until I'd heard it there, I didn't quite understand.
You didn't see it all as one thing.
Right. I didn't see it as connected.
Together in the
and now I see it as connected.
Yeah.
And there's probably more to it. Neil Harbison is the guy who got the antenna put into his skull.
Okay.
And it hangs up over his head. It looks like a kind of like a tail going up.
Is he rich?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He's an artist, but this antenna actually has a system for internet. He can get internet in his head.
Okay.
He has a Bluetooth communication system where he can, it's connected to one other person who has it in their teeth as well, and they communicate via Morse code by tapping their teeth together.
I don't know. My teeth are too sensitive for that. Don't do that shit. So my question is, how is this going to affect content creators?
Well, we already see what's happening with AI.
Are they still going to have jobs?
Copyright law cases are being filed by the thousands right now because people are taking
ideas,
things that are already copyrighted, and using AI to enhance them or change them. And now, is that okay?
Everything should be okay. If it's all part of the matrix.
There'll be no creators if you can't make a living.
Well, that's my point, because there are people in this world who that is their living. I read a story about Hong Kong, because Hong Kong does not have TikTok. And it was a creator who had been making her living doing TikTok in Hong Kong. And she said, one day we had it and the next day I didn't.
Yeah.
And she's been scrambling to try to get back her millions of followers, which she hasn't. And she's using other platforms. But so I'm worried about content creators, G-Long. Concerned.
Well, this guy is a content creator, the Antenna Boy. He co-founded the Cyborg Foundation, by the way.
I guess so.
And he also co-founded the Transspecies Society. I just have to read this. An association that gives voice to people with non-human identities, raises awareness of the challenges that the trans species face, and advocates for the freedom of self-design, self-enhancement, and offers a development of new senses and organs for the community.
Could be your own engineer.
New organs. What did Pritzker's, what are they invested in? Companies that make
organs.
Well, injection molding for future organs, right?
Synthetic organs based on your DNA.
So these science fiction stories where people had, like, I don't know, fish heads or what, it doesn't, anything's possible.
Anything
but first,
can happen.
The first thing you have to do is get rid of the binary definition of gender.
Yes.
You've got to get rid of that. And
then it's pointless to have
and
a
what's
family.
happening is gay men and women who are against this idea that you can't be just flat out gay, that it has to be this spectrum.
Yeah, you have to have more specifics.
They're being called out just like disgusting baby boomer cisgender white men.
Sure. You can turn it on anybody. That's the point.
That's right. And that is a communistic practice.
Beware of being the roller when there's nothing left to roll. I have a quote here from the Criminal Justice Degree Hub, and it says, conspiracy theories are the refuge of the disempowered.
Sure.
So is that all we're doing here?
No, I don't think so. I think
she said follow the money. I do believe that.
And once you follow the money, if you actually jump on this or go down this rabbit hole, this is not a rabbit hole. It is a giant tunnel.
And they really are doing it out in the open.
Yeah.
But I mean, she was able to follow the money. That means anybody can go and see who donated.
They're proud of it. Yeah. I went to their foundations and looked at who they give money to. And they're insidious about it. Like, they give money to veterans groups. Well, who's going to argue against that? Yeah. I'm not arguing against them giving money to veterans groups. I am arguing that maybe they shouldn't be so bent on trying to redefine human sexuality at the expense of families. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, if your children don't have an age and they don't have a gender, then are you the parents, and do you have any rights over your child at all? We see school boards taking this stuff away.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just read the sex education curricula for the state of Illinois, where Pritzker is the governor.
Pritzker is the governor, yes.
For second grade? Huh. What?
It's their curriculum? Is it curriculum they're voting on, or they've already?
It's been incorporated.
It's in place.
And parents can opt out. But here's the funny part. There's no alternative.
Well, the alternative is you teach your children about sex. You teach them.
And breaking apart public education is something that the other side is trying to do.
Yeah.
You see the problem?
Yeah, the Betsy DeVosses
of the problem is everybody thinks there's a left and a right, and there isn't. There's the elite and everybody else.
And they're pitting everybody against each other. That's right.
France had three estates: clergy, noble, and everybody else. We have two. We have the elites and everybody else. And the problem is people think that the elites that they like are on their side. The elites are on the side of
the elites. Yes, always and forever. Well,
now
that was a
lot of stuff.
That was a lot of stuff.
I know, and we'll come back to it. But I think you
kind of have to, because I don't think it's going away.
I just scratched the surface. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's not going.
The more I looked at today, I was like, oh my God, I could do a podcast a day on this for about a week. There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information.
And then it doesn't even come close to the horror that you had on your Facebook.
Oh, did we talk about the that horror now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's
well, because I do want to bury my head in the sand quite often, or at least in the Louisiana soil, because I'm
in the dirt.
like the gardening aspect of life in the country. So I'm a member of a lot of gardening groups on the social media platform, Facebook, the old one that's going away. I know. And there was a post that had like more than 500 comments, and the question the woman asked was, she had a picture of her plant, and she just asked a question: if why was one vine growing up and the other one was hanging down, and how could she manipulate it to make them both grow down? And her plant was a wandering Jew. So that's what she asked. How do I get my wandering Jew? And at the point that I started reading responses, it was somebody saying, you people have way too much time. You just need to go on about your business. Go out in your garden, get a job, volunteer.
You had to go backwards.
And so I backed up a little bit, but I never found the original offended person. There were many people supporting the idea that we do not need to use the phrase wandering Jew anymore. And then there were, of course, the normal people out there going, what? It's just what we call it. We can't remember the scientific name. It's just a creeping plant. It goes everywhere. Some people call it a silver inch plant, but wandering Jew. And this is added. The latter name is controversial, and some now use the alternative wandering dude, which one of my former students, who is obviously much younger than me, is she says her gardening groups call them the wandering dude.
Well, that's offensive.
And
there
now
are
I'm
no
worried
dudes.
about dudes because there are no dudes. So
where on the spectrum is this dude?
Well, these wandering Jew plants will go anywhere. That's why they call them what they do. But apparently that's got to change now in our society, because that's just...
Because we have to stir up a fight over something so trivial.
It really
is. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the wizard is doing all kinds of things.
And I don't think it's the Jews at all anymore. I don't even know
I don't
who
think a Jew is offended by that. First of all, the Wandering Jew is a famous legend in their history anyway.
And the Jews have a notoriously good sense of humor.
Yeah. And while we're on that topic, this is where the irony, I thought, and this is where we'll wrap it up. This was just after Easter.
Yes. This was actually, I was reading that, I think, Easter
Well, speaking of wandering Jews... Wasn't one crucified, and that's the reason we have Easter?
That's why we celebrate that day.
And you say, yeah, but it was a small area. He didn't wander that much. Well, I have news for you. Did you know that Jesus visited Cornwall in England?
Did he?
According to them.
Did he now?
Yep. Traveled with his uncle Joseph of Arimathea.
Oh, hey, I know about him and his staff.
That's right. That's
because I'm a gardener.
In fact, twice. They believe that Jesus came twice with Joseph, who was a trader in tin, weirdly enough. Tin. And bronze being the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
Actually, at the time of Jesus, we were getting into the Iron Age, but we won't. Okay. Anyway, but tin was still very valuable, and one of the best places to get it, according to this, was in England. I'm betting they could get it closer. But anyway, that... the idea, there's people who believe this, absolutely, that Jesus traveled to West Country in England, and by the way, this is an area, Cornwall is like right up against Wales.
All right.
Which is also where the Arthurian legend comes from, too, by the way. And they're connected as well, because Joseph of Arimathea, after Jesus died, he brought the Holy Grail to England and buried it.
Yes.
Which is why they had to find the Holy Grail, you see. But anyway, it's a very strong legend. And one of the things they use, though, is so factually stupid. I have to say that.
Factually stupid.
St. Augustine was sent here by Pope Gregory in the 6th century
plant grass.
To convert the English. But when he got here, they were already worshiping Christ.
Oh, damn. Well, so he started planting grass.
But they're saying that Christianity was brought there before the 6th century. Okay, but Christ didn't bring Christianity. Christ didn't even know about Christianity.
He didn't realize he was going to have
time.
that. Yes.
He
didn't know about his fan club.
And there is a thorn tree at, I think it's Glastonbury.
Yes.
Where Joseph of Arimathea supposedly took his staff, which was made of this thorn tree,
and planted it in the ground.
Stuck it in the ground, and it began growing.
Yes.
And it's a desert tree. It shouldn't grow there, but it does.
But it does.
And I've actually seen a thorn from that tree.
Yes, I have. I've been given that.
And it's kind of cool. But anyway, so speaking of wandering
Look
Jews,
it up, people. That's a long way he wandered.
I would be more than willing to believe that Joseph may have traded in tin via the other direction, like wagon trains to the east, and Jesus because we have this big gap in his history.
Yeah, that you don't know what he
maybe he went with him and got some education in Eastern philosophies of treating people equally and like their brothers. But Jesus never actually said anything like that. I mean, he said he was bringing the law of Moses. That's what he said. I'm not going to tell you where, but I remember he was bringing back the law of Moses. That's Old Testament stuff. So I don't know.
Well,
anyway,
I don't think we're going to investigate any of that in the future.
Not today.
No, certainly not today.
We don't have time.
No, we don't have time, G-Long. Well, I'm glad we solved opened some.
No, we opened some doors. We haven't solved any problems.
No, we certainly haven't solved anything because there is no solution to this for us small.
I encourage anyone, just get on your computer. It's easy to do. Pritzker family, just look up their history. Even there was one particular cousin from Russia who was a philosopher who was very similar to Nietzsche in his views, and it's really interesting. I mean, they are loaded.
You got a little time, travel down a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
you might feel better, you might not. I don't know.
And just don't forget that really what they want to control in the end is the information. They do. None of this stuff is you're not going to find any of this stuff on CBS, NBC, not even Twitter, not even Facebook.
Well, why would they?
You got to go to these neutral papers that the left calls far right.
Yeah.
But
just recognize that the labels
NTD,
don't mean anything.
No,
it's all a design.
And that a lot of these problems that we talk about aren't happening in the rest of the world. They're happening here.
Yes. Okay.
And dividing us all. That's the way I see it. Anyway.
All right.
So
meanwhile,
I think we need to kind of wrap it up.
Well, the only design you have is your own self and your own world that you create, and your joy. Well, that's something that you take with you. So,
are you saying it's portable?
I am. Well, that's all you got. We don't have a lot that belongs to us solely.
See, that's a much simpler philosophy than transhumanism.
It gets me by.
It certainly helps. Well, everybody, have a great couple of weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Yeah.
As usual.
Almost the end of the school year.
26 and a half days.
So excited.
Of actual school days. I'm not counting the weekends because those are mine.
Getting closer to retirement every day.
Every day.
And then I could subject you people to even more podcast nonsense.
Push the button, G.
I will.
Have a day.
Everybody, take care. We appreciate you. Yeah, exactly.
Well, because I live in that, it's weird to say, I'm going to go camping.
I'm going to go camping in the woods.
Yeah, I live there.
In other words, I'm just going to go to a place that's like where I live now.
I just don't have a body of water.
I just don't have my house.
But I can, how comfortable it is to sit on my porch and enjoy nature with a cup of coffee and then walk back into my house.
Yeah, it's kind of nice at times. Yes.
Anyhow.
Yes.
Now, you want to give me a beautiful beach scene. That's different.
That is a whole different thing. It really is. All right. So we got lots of clips today.
You got clips. You got support. Clips. You got backup better than me.
Yeah, actually I do.
Well, wait, you were supposed to go, no, baby, nothing's better than you. How did you drop that? Damn.
I'm sorry. I was looking at my board.
You miss it all the time. You hear it later.
Well,
though,
I was doing the technical stuff for the podcast that you don't care about.
Well, no, I have told you numerous times you need to write that shit down. It's like a checklist.
There's nothing to write down. You have
what do you
to
do
it.
Each step.
You just have to do it.
Never actually tried to show me.
You don't even watch. You can actually see almost everything I do from where you're sitting right now.
You're a teacher. You're supposed to teach.
I'm right here demonstrating constantly.
That is bull.
It's not. You're sitting right there. I can see you.
Yeah, well, did you push the button?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did.
Okay, well, there's my first step. I got to check that.
You got to push the record button. I think we've established that.
Not well enough. Not nearly well enough.
Probably should have, yeah.
You know what? You have a human brain. That's the problem.
Yeah, but we can fix that.
Oh,
it's
damn
coming.
Straight we can fix that.
All right. Do you think we're ready to go?
I've got richest 1%, 9 strategies to reduce inequalities, and hang on.
I don't know if we're going to get time.
I don't think we. I got it ready. Whether you use it or not.
Do you have Wandering Jew?
I don't need that. That was real life. That happened to me.
Oh, I thought you were going to make comments.
Well, we can make.
I thought
comments.
you would read the comment.
Oh my! No,
the
I don't.
One.
I don't know what the original comment was.
No, where the person said.
Oh.
That's
there
not
were
the preferred.
Like 600 comments. I didn't go searching for that.
I thought there was one in particular that started the.
No, I don't know what started it. I just saw everybody responding to it. Well, I know the original poster's comment, but there was nothing there.
I've got an addition to your Wandering Jew story, so it'll all work out.
All right, well.
But we got to get serious first. So